the tallest building in the world, the biggest Ferris wheel, the biggest pools, fountains, hotels, malls, man-made islands, one of the busiest airports and ports in the world. And all of this in a place that just a half a century ago looked like this. So how did Dubai turn from that into this? Where did such rapid wealth come from? And is this really the city of the future? What's been happening to Dubai in recent years is the perfect example of rose from nothing. Because everything around Dubai, a bit away from the sea, still shows no signs of life. It's an empty Arabian desert, and along the Persian Gulf coast, it's like the desert suddenly turns into pure luxury. And you know what most people say when you ask them how and why? Because they once found oil here. Fair point, but that's not right. Look, Dubai is just one part of a country called the United Arab Emirates. And if you look at the Emirates overall, there is plenty of oil. There are top 10 globally in reserves and production. But in Dubai itself, by Arab standards, you could say there is barely a drop. And if you check what this city earns from today, it's got a bit of everything. Trade, financial services, real estate. But oil? Nope. So the secret to its success, wealth and endless PR isn't that someone is making a fortune from natural resources. What matters isn't how you earn, but how you spend. So let's figure out what Dubai was like at the very beginning and what they had to do to get things moving. Mid-20th century, and as you remember, Dubai has neither oil nor skyscrapers. Honestly, there is nothing at all. Even the natural pearl diving business is fading, because in Japan they invent cultured pearls, and demand for a real thing drops. Honestly, anyone else would have just left. In fact, that's pretty much what the local sheikh, Rashid bin Said Al Maktoum, does. He gathers his whole team and heads to Europe. Here he is, for example, playing train driver on the London Underground, popping into jewelry shops, meeting British ministers. What for? For this tiny dot on the map. In 1959 it looked like this. And by 2025 it would grow into the world's most crowded international airport. So I'm saying Dubai became what it is just because they built an airport there. No, but this airport became sort of key, Sheikh's main idea. Turn this tiny seaside town into a global hub for trade, tourism, luxury, everything the biggest and the best. But how do you do that if you don't have money? Half of your population consists of camels, and your only entertainment is sand. Exactly, you invite the people who already have money, and they will build paradise on earth themselves. And on that trip to London, the sheikh wasn't just selling his smile to reporters, though he did a decent job on that. He was raising money for Dubai. The British who ran these territories at the time had to grant permission to build the airport. Because before that, just imagine, there was no airport in Dubai, and you had to travel to the neighboring emirate of Sharjah. That's where it was. Right, they built an airport in the middle of the desert. But who would want to fly there? And why? Nearly 20 years would pass before the Queen of England herself flew into Dubai. All that time the sheikh poured borrowed money into power lines, built roads and basic infrastructure, widened and deepened the local creek so large cargo ships could enter, and built a new Dubai port. And as a result, today it's more or less the top 10 ports in the world. But the real turning point in that whole story is 1985. Alright, they created the conditions for people to come here. But what about the money? How do you motivate people to bring their money here and make sure it grows here? And just so we're clear, oil prices were still pretty decent then. $30 a barrel. That's about 70 in today's prices. But the very next year, in 1986, they would crash to 10. And Dubai? It wouldn't die. it would take off. Because in 1985 they created two crucial things. First, the Jebel Ali Free Zone, JAFZA. What's that?
Jebel Ali Free Zone, JAFZA, was established in 1985, which grew into the world's largest and fastest growing free zones.
Let's say you've got a lot of money and suddenly you want to do business in Dubai. Welcome to JAFZA. There are no restrictions. You're a foreigner. You don't need to find a Dubai partner who would take a cut just to let you open a business. Most important, no duties, zero income tax and a 50-year exemption from corporate taxes. Plus, you don't have to employ locals. Bring your own team from wherever you want, because they will spend their money in Dubai. That's how the zone starts pulling in entrepreneurs from all over the world. They build offices, warehouses, factories. Over 30 years, 7,000 companies move here, and more than 100 of them make the global top 500 list. Just so you know, JAFZA isn't the only free economic zone in Dubai. There are dozens now. So, what's the second big thing from 1985? I'll give you a clue. What do they have in common? Portuguese star Cristiano Ronaldo, Croatian Luka Modric, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Brazilian Neymar, the world's best football players. Nothing yet? Take a look at English clubs. Chelsea, Arsenal. Have you noticed what's the one thing they share? The word Emirates. That airline in that very year, 1985, Dubai leaders decided to start to develop tourism and infrastructure in the country. Because trading by sea is great, but for important negotiations, you need comfortable flights. And that's how Emirates' comfortable premium air travel appears. And what do football stars and their clubs have to do with it? Once the airline starts sponsoring them, the number of passengers grows year after year. Today, Emirates spends over 200 million euros annually on football in different countries. Just for comparison, on advertising on American TV, they spend $2.5 million. As a result, over the last years, 12 times more people have been flying Emirates. Yeah, looks like the Sheikh's trip to London all those years ago really paid off. Right, they create the conditions to attract people and their money, and made sure those money would grow here. But how do you make sure the money stays here? As you get, when Al Maktoum dreamed up a financial and trading oasis, he wasn't planning to run a charity, like, come on over, dear guests, do whatever you want and don't even pay taxes. No. They needed to make sure the money stayed in Dubai as much as possible. And that's where three key free Dubai resources came to the rescue. No, still not oil. It's the sun, the sand and the sea. Add to that cheap labor from India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, and the city starts sprouting those 7-star gazillion floor hotels. For the last 20 years it's been a local contest who would build the tallest hotel in the world in Dubai. 2007, 72 floors. 2012, already 82. And 2017, fewer floors but a taller height. 333 meters. But more important than all of them was that very first big move. A building that started in November 1994, right out in the open sea.
It's one of the most incredible buildings on the planet. At 321 meters, it soars higher than the Eiffel Tower.
By then, the new Dubai Sheikh didn't just want a luxury hotel, he wanted something more, a symbol of Dubai. Sort of their own Eiffel Tower or Statue of Liberty. So the Sheikh decides to spend $1 billion. Finds young British architects. Before this, they'd only built schools. But they've got a wild idea. Dump rock and sand into the Persian Gulf and on that base built a 300-meter sail of glass and concrete called the Arabian Tower, Burj Al Arab. And to this day, Burj Al Arab isn't remembered for its huge suites or the golden everything. It's remembered because the shape, the sail, it's unmistakable. It's as simple and unique as the Egyptian pyramids, the Sydney Opera House, or Yes, the Eiffel Tower. So Burj Al Arab is completed in 1999, and that becomes a breakthrough for attracting tourists. Why? Because when you're planning a trip to a city, you ask yourself, what I'm gonna do there? What's there to see? If there is nothing to see, why go at all? And the more of those magnets you have, the more buzz, attention and new tourists you get. After this sale, everything snowballed. Man-made palm-shaped islands, the world group of islands, dancing fountains, the tallest building in the world, Burj Khalifa, and now they're building another tower close to 1 kilometer high. In short, one flashy hotel and a bunch of other Dubai showpieces start pulling in 500,000, sometimes even 1 million new tourists every year. In 1999, around 2.5 million people came to Dubai. 10 years later, already 7.5 million. And last year, almost 19 million. And the money they leave in Dubai, almost 20 times more. $21 billion. Investment, free trade and luxury tourism taken together in terms of economic genius, you can compare all this only to America's Marshall Plan after World War II. And if you haven't seen the video about Germany, check it out after this one. Back to Marshall Plan, I'll explain. Back then, the United States government gave devastated Europe grants, cheap loans and long-term leasing. And this money wasn't for plugging budget holes. It was to buy raw materials, food, equipment, fertilizers. And who do you think they bought from if all the Europe lay in ruins? From Americans themselves. So the most money handed out flowed right back to the United States. And the American manufacturers got a huge new market. Basically for free. Yeah, Dubai has nothing to do with Marshall Plan, but approach is identical. People from all over the world voluntarily bring their millions and their technology here, build up the infrastructure, make billions in Dubai and immediately spend those billions right here on entertainment or on real estate that keeps rising in price. Sort of loop of money from Dubai back to Dubai. Of course, it hasn't been all easy. For example, this is how fancy and rich the islands on the first palm look. And this is how sad and empty things look on the second, which, by the way, is twice as big as the first, or the world. Probably no more than 10% is in use. But on the other hand, remember how the local airport started out. Dubai's success from the very start of the 21st century wasn't about how much passed through it, but about how smartly they invested into it and how comfortable it was for the people doing it. To try to guess what Dubai's future might look like, let's turn to the past. History has a great example when a city of innovation and free trade thrived for several centuries. That's Venice. Today is basically a European open-air museum. But in the Middle Ages, it was booming, because Venice came up with something like a first version of a joint stock company, the Commander. It was a contract where a local investor wanted to sell something, but had no intention of going on a dangerous trip. He put up the money for the venture, and the second partner escorted the cargo, sold it at the destination, and bought new goods. The escort usually had no money, but he had a fair shot at earning. Over time, he'd become an investor himself and back new partners. That's how more and more families got wealthy, moved to Venice and developed the city. The prosperity ended though when they started imposing repressive political laws. In other words, when the people making money had no way to run Venice. It was run by those who had the right, simply because they were the children of the ruling elite. Sounds familiar, right? Dubai is still run by an Arab sheikh who doesn't let anyone in, but the people who invest there feel as comfortable as possible. There is some difference between Middle Ages Venice and 21st century Dubai. I mean, there is. right? Will Dubai keep growing? Why not? The Emirates policy is to gather the brightest minds and ideas, vacuum up new technologies and try them out at home. Someone came up with 3D printing houses? Welcome to Dubai! Print us an administrative building, naturally the biggest in the world. And if you want proof that Dubai's example is inspiring, look at the behavior of its neighbor, Abu Dhabi. That's where 95% of the country's oil is located. But it's far less famous than its northern neighbor. After watching Dubai's success, they also decided it's much smarter not just to stuff money into their pockets, but to reinvest into themselves. Now they're building their own entertainment islands, opening economic zones, creating calling cards like the Louvre Museum and the future Guggenheim Museum. They're putting up unusual hotels, still fancy, pricey and sometimes stylish, but for now, a step behind. And Dubai clearly played the golden rule: think long-term when they invest. So, Germany, playlist, subscribe, something else. See ya!